That night, the rain fell with a gentle drizzle as Alex, an experienced hearse driver, prepared himself for his night shift. In the dark garage, dim floodlights glowed, casting eerie shadows around. Alex checked his hearse, making sure everything was functioning properly before embarking on the terrifying journey ahead. As he navigated through the alley towards the hearse, the cold night wind whispered in his ears, as if warning him of the dangers awaiting that night. However, Alex brushed off the uneasy feeling and entered his hearse with determination. The journey that night took him to a small village nestled in the remote mountains. The winding road meandered through dark trees, illuminated only by the headlights of his vehicle and occasional flashes of lightning in the sky. The eerie atmosphere was further intensified by the shadows moving among the trees, as if something lurked in the darkness. When Alex arrived at the funeral home, he was greeted by an eerie silence. The village seemed to be dead, devoid of any sound except for the rain soaking the earth. He carefully lifted the coffin from the back of the hearse and carried it into the funeral home. However, as he entered the funeral home, he felt that something was amiss. The air felt heavy and dark, as if filled with an unfriendly presence. The atmosphere sent shivers down his spine, but he forced himself to focus on his task. As he lowered the coffin into the main room, he sensed something strange. A dark shadow flashed in the corner of the room, disappearing before Alex could fully process what he saw. He shook his head, trying to dispel unnecessary thoughts from his mind, and quickly left the funeral home. However, the journey back to the city did not go as planned. In the middle of the journey, his hearse suddenly stalled in the middle of the dark forest. Alex tried to start the engine again and again, but to no avail. Confusion set in, and fear began to creep into his mind. Reluctantly, he stepped out of the hearse and opened the trunk to inspect the problem. However, as he checked the engine, he found that there was nothing wrong. Everything seemed normal. It was just that the hearse refused to move. As he was busy inspecting the hearse, he suddenly heard footsteps among the trees surrounding him. The footsteps were heavy and thunderous, as if coming from a giant and heavy creature. Alex turned towards the sound, but there was nothing visible in the darkness. Fear gripped Alex's heart. He felt like there was something watching him from the darkness, something he couldn't see but could feel its presence. He tried to calm himself, convincing himself that it was just his overactive imagination. However, when he turned back to the hearse to try to fix it, he saw something that made him freeze. In the rear window of the hearse, the faint outline of a pale face stared back at him with empty eyes. The face seemed to belong to a woman who had long since passed away, with an expression full of sadness and suffering. Alex stepped back quickly, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to reassure himself that it was just an illusion, that his exhaustion was causing him to see things that weren't real. But when he looked back at the window, the face was still there, unchanged from before. Without hesitation, Alex jumped back into the hearse and locked the door tightly. He grabbed the keys and tried to start the engine again, hoping to escape from that place. However, despite his repeated attempts, the engine remained dead. And when he looked back at the rear window again, he saw that the face was now by the side window, just inches from his face. Its empty eyes stared straight into Alex's soul, conveying unspoken sadness and despair. Suddenly, the face disappeared quickly, as if vanishing into the darkness of the night. And a moment later, the hearse suddenly roared back to life, its engine rumbling loudly in the silent night. Trembling, Alex sped away from that place, leaving behind the terrifying shadows. However, even though he had left that place far behind, he knew that the horrifying experience of that night would always haunt him, reminding him of the dark side that exists in this world.